Welcome to Edison TV. I'm Michelle Livings and we're here today to explore Edison client Else Nutrition, the company set on disrupting the global baby formula market, which is worth almost $80 billion US. Else offers a world first, an alternative to babies who are allergic, sensitive or intolerant to dairy and soy, as well as to vegan and flexitarian families, a significant and growing consumer sector. In April, the company completed initial production of its minimally processed 100% plant-based formula, which, following FDA approval, could offer Else a major revenue opportunity in this lucrative market. Leading the business's strategy is CEO and co-founder Hamatal Yitzhak. And later, I'll be talking with Edison analyst Sarah Welford to share her expert insights on the company's valuation and its investment case. Welcome, Hamatal. It's really lovely to have you here with us.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm happy to be here.
First of all, at the heart of your business, it's to provide a real alternative to dairy and soy-based child nutrition products. So tell us why Else is in such a strong position to realise opportunities in this market.
I could say that the infant formula market is in a very unique position. It is a huge market, about $80 billion market globally and growing every year. There's multiple of brands, but they're all made of the same thing. It's dairy and a very small portion which is made of soy. So we're actually reliant on a single source of protein, which is dairy. We are the third alternative, actually, ever. And we bring a solution that is catering, first of all, a population that has grown up to about 40% of the baby population globally, which is the sensitive babies, the allergic babies and intolerant babies. These are slightly different terms, but they all consist about 40% of the market. And we know that we created a product that actually, on one hand, is dairy and soy-free, but it meets the standards of regulation and the nutritional composition that is required.
What other global market conditions are at play that Else can take advantage of?
There's an exponential growth of the flexitarian community globally. According to Euromonitor, about 42%, no less, are already reporting them being flexitarians. So, and they drive a kind of a mainstream shift into plant-based nutrition. We expect that trend to continue grow as it's also a necessity not only from the health issues, but it's also a necessity of our planet to support sustainable protein sources, driving the need for this type of alternative and a great opportunity for Else.
Your baby formula has been a decade in the making. Tell us about how you started on the project and why.
We're all veterans of the infant nutrition industry. And as veterans, we've already seen, even maybe 20 years ago, we've seen the extent of babies suffering from all kinds of symptoms and allergies and sensitivities back then. And when it was also crossed with a personal case in the family, then we figured out we have to act very quickly to sort out. I mean, the baby that was there, it was the granddaughter of my co-founder. And she was severely allergic to dairy. She didn't have any other option because all the options in the market were not working for her. They're also based on dairy anyhow. So we acted very fast. We were kind of exploring the world of plants in order to find a composition that would somehow mimic or be modeled after the human milk, like regulatory is demanding. But we also understood that we have to go an extra mile here, which is not only having a plant-based product, but also making sure that it's a clean product. It is minimally processed, making the ingredients kept as intact proteins, as whole foods. So we kind of figured out or had a theory or an assumption that this should make a great difference. And it did for her. And once that worked, we actually started developing it in a scalable and more industrial way to make it commercial product. But that took a long time, about 7 years.
Geographic expansion is obviously key for ELSE and plays a big part in your momentum. So tell us about the new markets you're moving into and what they offer in terms of market potential.
We recently announced our launch into Canada. Canada is a very interesting market in terms of its tendency to consume healthy and innovative nutritional diets or plant-based consumption. About 2/3 of the population is already known to consume plant-based foods very frequently. They're very open to that, just like the American market, but even more. And so we expect this market to grow very fast for us. And we think Canada would account for at least 15 to 20% of our future revenues.
And what about outside of North America?
Next step is China. The launch in China is a very, very important milestone for ELSE. It's the largest market in infant nutrition globally. It accounts for about 40% of the market, and it's supposed to reach about $40 billion by 2025. The Chinese population is very sensitive to dairy. That's a well-known fact. Over 40% of the children under 2 report that they were suffering from all kinds of allergic symptoms to dairy. And also we know that 92% of the Chinese population is lactose intolerant. When they grow, they become lactose intolerant because they're not used to consume milk. So this is a huge opportunity for ELSE and a huge opportunity to make a difference in such a market that is striving for change.
And what about Europe and the UK?
Yeah, UK is the first country for ELSE to penetrate into Europe. And UK is a very strong market in terms of plant-based interests and plant-based tendency. I think at least a third of the population is flexitarian in the UK already, and there's a great interest in such products.
And lastly, how do you see the priorities for ELSE in the next 12 to 18 months? And what's your message to potential investors?
I guess the next 12 to 18 months are a key time for ELSE as we are embarking our clinical pathway to get the FDA and European permits to market. We concluded the first 2 steps very successfully. That's a great indicator for the further success on the clinical study, of course. The 2 preclinical studies actually demonstrated the safety of the ingredients and the bioavailability of the formula, which is a very critical point for FDA. So we are now launching the clinical study. That is something that should be taking about a year's time to get concluded and submitted. There will be other growth catalysts that we will be nurturing and pursuing, which are, I would say, expanding our current very loyal customer base in North America and definitely in the other markets that we penetrate into. We definitely would like to expand our footprint on the retail side and get into additional big box retailers in the United States as well as in other countries. We are in talks with some of them, and some of them will be announced soon. There will be extensive endeavors on the scientific side to build the data around the claims for hypoallergenicity and better tolerance and superiority of ELSE, which we already are doing. We already started some clinical studies on those other points. And the geographic expansion, of course, which starts, the additional countries that we anticipate in the near future would be additional countries in Europe. We were invited by Amazon to join them on Europe's 7 largest markets. So that would be the starting point, to be followed by retail expansion in those countries. I think more or less that's it.
Thank you, Hamatal. It sounds like a very exciting time for the company. Well, we've heard the latest news from ELSE, but how has Edison valued the company and how does it see the investment opportunity? Edison analyst Sarah Welford joins us to share her thoughts on the valuation, where Else stands in the market, and its growth potential. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Michelle. Good to be here.
Yeah, lovely to have you here. So this is a new proposition, but in a long-established market. How have you gone about valuing Else?
Well, valuing a disruptor is always a challenge, as it's so hard to forecast. So we decided to model a few scenarios using our 10-year standard DCF, followed by a further 10-year fade or stabilization period before applying our terminal assumptions. So our base case scenario assumes sales growth compound of about 50% in years 4 to 10, followed by around 15% in years 11 to 15 and 10% in years 16 to 20 as the growth fades. We then assume 2% terminal growth and a 15% terminal margin. We also consider a bull case scenario in which we assume a big win in the US. So we assume Else obtains a listing at one of the major retailers. We assume greater success for Else's infant formula once it's launched. So obviously that gives us a higher fair value. And our slower rollout scenario, conversely, assumes the uptake of the product is more sluggish, with products only listed in niche retailers and health stores. This will provide growth, but at a slower pace. We also, within this scenario, assume a 2-year delay to the launch of the infant formula. So obviously this results in a lower fair value.
Okay, that's great. Can you tell us about Else's unique formulation for its nutrition? What excites you about it?
Well, I think what's groundbreaking is the fact that the formulation is unique because it's both dairy and soy-free, and therefore it addresses the issue that traditional hypoallergenic nutrition for babies and toddlers that is currently available on the market all have a compromised taste, which then leads to fussy babies. The plant-based formulation also ticks many boxes on the sustainability front, and it appeals to parents seeking a flexitarian diet. So I think that's a further benefit of the Else formulation.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think are the main catalysts for the shares?
So I think firstly, it has quietly built its infrastructure through 2021, rolling out sales online and in store, and it's now starting to expand to new geographies. Secondly, it has expanded its product offering beyond its initial toddler formula. It's launched a nutritional drink for children, more recently a line of baby cereals. It also has a toddler product with added omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So it's certainly expanding its range of SKUs. Thirdly, it's working on launching its groundbreaking formula aimed at babies. The formulation is based on the same 3 ingredients as its toddler and children nutrition, but the infant nutrition requires preclinical and clinical studies in order to be marketed. Else is currently working on these. Some of the preclinical work has now been completed, the clinical studies are underway, and management believes it is on track to launch this exciting new product in early 2025.
Oh, fantastic. And finally, I suppose we should really talk about the risks and potential obstacles. What do you foresee these as?
Well, I think Else is looking to disrupt an industry segment that has been established for over 150 years. Brand recognition is a risk, as Else is operating in a segment with lots of large and established brand players. It's encouraging to hear all the statistics available regarding rates of repurchase on Amazon, the number of subscribers specifically to the Else brand. These all point to Else's success so far and its loyal following. Input cost inflation is a risk that the entire consumer goods industry is facing. Obviously, that's top of mind at the moment with the inflationary environment. And reputational risk is particularly prevalent in the baby food segment as product standards and expectations are very high. As we mentioned before, there are regulatory risks, as Else still has to complete some of the clinical studies before it can market its infant formula. These can be lengthy, subject to delays, and of course they can be expensive. And finally, I think Else could have supply chain risks. While its asset-light strategy is sensible while the business reaches critical mass, it does mean that it could be exposed to problems of contract manufacturers. But I think overall, Else is an exciting story with the potential to disrupt an industry with an entirely new product that is more sustainable than what is currently available. Its journey has only just begun, but initial indications from the US market are very encouraging. And obviously they have recently launched in Canada, so we should be getting some of those indications over the next few quarters.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. And of course, you'll be following Else's journey carefully as they continue to develop their products and grow. Sarah, thank you. And that's it for today. If you'd like to know more about Else Nutrition, do read Edison's initiation report and updates produced by Sarah Welford. And to follow their stock, head to our website. Thanks for joining us. Until the next time.